My sister and her husband thought they could steal my company, my legacy, and even my daughter's love. They thought I was broken when they left me with nothing. But they made one fatal mistake. They didn't realize the nothing they left me with was the one thing I needed to destroy them completely. Hello, my dear family of listeners. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, if you've ever been pushed down and counted out, then this story is your battle cry. Welcome to my channel. I need you to do something for me right now. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon. You won't want to miss what happens next. And I want to feel your strength with me. Comment below with your country and state right now. Let's begin. My name is Serena Blackwood, and for 43 years, I believed family was the unshakable foundation of a life. I was wrong. Family is just the name we give to the people who are in the best position to plunge the knife directly into your heart. The empire I built, Aura Bloom, started not in a gleaming lab, but on my knees in the dirt of my grandmother's backyard in Georgia. She taught me about herbs, about roots, about the silent, potent power of the earth. While other kids were at the mall, I was making poultices and tinctures. That knowledge became my passion, and that passion became a multi-million-dollar organic skincare company that revolutionized the industry. I built it with my husband, or so I thought. We were a perfect partnership. I was the creative genius, the green witch behind our formulas. He was the charming face, the master of sales and operations. Together, we were unstoppable. We had it all, the penthouse in Manhattan, the summer house in the Hamptons, and most importantly, our brilliant, beautiful daughter, Chloe. The crack in my perfect world didn't appear as a quake. It was a hairline fracture, so fine I almost missed it. It was my younger sister, Diana, who put it there. Diana had always lived in my shadow. While I was building Aura Bloom, she was cycling through failed careers and even more failed relationships. She was all sharp edges and bitter envy, disguised as witty banter. "Oh, look, Serena saved the world with another face cream," she'd say at family dinners, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. After her latest divorce, James, with his infuriatingly big heart, insisted we bring her into the company. "She's family, Serena. She needs us. We can give her a purpose." It was the worst decision of my life. I gave her a role as director of community outreach. But Diana wasn't interested in outreach. She was interested in the inner workings. She began staying late, having quiet, closed-door meetings with James, studying the financials with an intensity she'd never shown for anything before. When I'd walk in, the conversation would stop, and they'd offer me smiles that were a little too bright. "Just discussing logistics, my love," James would say, kissing my forehead. "Big sister doesn't need to worry about the boarding details," Diana would add, her voice slick as oil. The fracture widened. I started feeling like a guest in my own company. Key decisions about suppliers and distributors were made without my input. When I challenged them, they presented a united front. "It's for efficiency, Serena," James would say, his tone patronizing. "You focus on creating your magic potions. Let us handle the business." The magic was dying inside me. The joy of creation was being suffocated by a slow-moving coup. The earthquake finally hit on a Tuesday. I was called into an emergency board meeting. I walked in expecting to discuss a competitor, but found the entire board, James and Diana, sitting around the polished table, their faces grim masks of faux sympathy. "Serena," James began, not meeting my eyes, "the board has conducted a review. We feel your creative direction has become stagnant. Your formulas are dated. Aura Bloom needs a new vision to stay competitive." I laughed. I actually laughed. It was so absurd. My formulas are the reason this company exists. What are you talking about? Diana slid a document across the table. It was a severance agreement and a non-disclosure agreement. "It's time to step aside, Serena," she said, her voice cold and triumphant, "for the good of the company you love." "You're firing me? From my own company?" The room began to swim. "The board is voting you out," James corrected, his tone flat. "Your shares will be bought out at a fair valuation." The valuation was a joke, a fraction of their worth. It was theft, dressed in corporate legalese. I looked from face to face. These people I had trusted, worked with, celebrated with. They all looked away. The coup was complete, but that wasn't the worst of it. The killing blow came when I got home. The locks on my penthouse had been changed. My personal belongings were in suitcases on the doorstep. Standing there with a smirk of utter victory was my assistant, a young woman I had mentored. "Mr. Blackwood's orders," she said, handing me a single envelope. Inside was a note from James. "Serena, it's over. I'm in love with Diana. We have been for years. We're starting a new life together, a new family. It's best for everyone if you make a clean break, for Chloe's sake." For Chloe's sake. My legs gave way. I crumpled onto the marble floor of the hallway, the suitcases scattering around me. They hadn't just stolen my company, they had stolen my husband, my sister, and my home. And they were using my daughter as a weapon. The darkness that swallowed me was absolute. I spent the next month in a cheap motel room, wrapped in a blanket of despair. I didn't shower, I didn't eat, I was a ghost. The media had a field day. Aura Bloom co-founder ousted in boardroom shakeup. James Blackwood moves on with wife's sister. I was a public spectacle, a cautionary tale. The only flicker of light was Chloe, my 16-year-old daughter caught in the middle of this war. She was forced to live with James and Diana in my penthouse. When we spoke on the phone, her voice was distant, confused. "Mom, Diana says you had a nervous breakdown, that you aren't fit to run the company. She says you left us?" They were poisoning her against me. They were rewriting history, painting me as the unstable, hysterical woman who had to be removed for her own good. That was the moment the spark ignited in the darkness. The grief didn't vanish, but it crystallized into something else, a cold, pure, and unstoppable rage. They thought they had left me with nothing, but they were wrong. They had left me with my grandmother's grimoire. Not a book of spells in the supernatural sense, but a book of earth magic. Formulas for healing, yes, but also meticulous notes on chemistry, on molecular structures, on the synergistic power of plants. It was written in a code only I understood, a blend of herbalism and advanced biochemistry that was decades ahead of its time. It contained the blueprint for Aura Bloom's greatest successes, and more importantly, for formulas I had never commercialized. Formulas that were too potent, too revolutionary. They had the company, the buildings, the bank accounts, but I had the source code. My revenge would not be a loud, dramatic confrontation. It would be a silent, surgical strike. It would be built not on anger, but on patience. Not on destruction, but on creation. I moved to a small, rented studio in Brooklyn. I used the paltry buyout money to set up a rudimentary lab. I spent my days and nights experimenting, refining, perfecting. I wasn't just recreating Aura Bloom, I was building its successor. A line so pure, so effective, it would make Aura Bloom look like cheap drugstore makeup. I called it Verdant Heart. For 2 years, I worked in the shadows. I grew my own herbs in rooftop planters. I sourced oils from small, ethical farms. I became a ghost in the industry, a rumor. Meanwhile, I watched from a distance as James and Diana ran Aura Bloom into the ground. They cut corners, replacing my organic, wild-harvested ingredients with cheap synthetic alternatives to boost profits. The quality plummeted. Customer complaints soared. The board grew restless. The media, once their cheerleaders, began to turn. But my masterstroke wasn't just a better product. It was a legal one. Buried deep in my grandmother's grimoire, in a formula for a healing salve, was a unique binding agent, a proprietary compound I had patented in the very early days of Orabloom under my name only. It was the secret sauce in all of our best-selling products, a patent they had conveniently overlooked in their takeover. They were infringing on my intellectual property on a massive billion-dollar scale. The stage was set. Verdant Heart was ready. My legal team was poised. But I needed the perfect moment to strike. I needed a stage so public, so humiliating, that their fall would be legendary. I got my chance. An invitation arrived at my P.O. box. It was embossed, ostentatious. You are cordially invited to the Orabloom Horizons Gala, celebrating a new era of innovation and philanthropy, honoring James Blackwood and Diana Blackwood as Visionaries of the Year. They were throwing themselves a victory party, and they had the audacity to invite me. It wasn't an invitation. It was a taunt, a final spit in my face. I RSVP'd, yes, one guest. The night of the gala, I didn't dress to blend in. I dressed to declare war. I wore a simple, stunning, floor-length black gown, no jewelry. My hair was pulled back in a severe, elegant chignon. I looked like what I was, a blade. I walked into the ballroom of the St. Regis Hotel. It was a sea of sequins and self-congratulation. And there they were, on a raised dais, James and Diana, holding hands, basking in the glow of a legacy they had stolen. My daughter, Chloe, now 18 and beautiful, sat at their table, looking polished and miserable. I moved through the crowd like a shark, a silent ripple of unease spreading in my wake. People recognized me. Whispers followed me. Is that Serena? She looks different. I walked right up to the base of the dais. James saw me first. His smile froze, then melted into confusion. Diana followed his gaze. Her face, plastered with Orabloom's latest anti-aging serum, contorted into a mask of pure hatred. Serena, James said, his voice booming unnaturally through the microphone. So good of you to come. We're honored. The room fell silent. Every eye was on us. I didn't look at him. I looked at my daughter. I gave her a small, gentle smile. Then I turned my gaze to Diana. I'm not here for you, I said, my voice calm, clear, and carrying to the very back of the room. I'm here to make an announcement. I didn't wait for permission. I walked up the 3 steps to the dais and took the microphone from James's limp hand. The event organizers looked panicked, but they were frozen. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my voice resonating through the grand ballroom. For 2 years, you have watched Orabloom struggle. You've seen its quality decline, its vision blur. You were told it was for efficiency. You were told I was stagnant. I paused, letting my gaze sweep over the audience. You were lied to. A collective gasp went through the room. James Blackwood and Diana Blackwood didn't innovate. They stole. They stole my company through a fraudulent boardroom coup. They stole my home. They tried to steal my daughter. My voice broke just for a second on that last word, and the emotion in it was real and devastating. But there was one thing they couldn't steal: my genius. I signaled to my lawyer, who was waiting at the side of the stage. He handed me a large, simple portfolio. This, I said, holding it up, is the future. This is Verdant Heart, a skincare line based on the original, unadulterated principles of Aura Bloom, but perfected, and it will be launching next month. The murmurs in the crowd were now a roar of excitement. This was industry-shaking news. Diana found her voice. This is slander. You have nothing. You're a pathetic, bitter woman trying to ruin our night. I smiled. It was a cold, terrible, and beautiful smile. I'm not finished, Diana. I turned back to the microphone. The reason Aura Bloom's products have failed is because they removed the heart, the proprietary binding agent, Serenity Complex, that made them work. I pulled a document from the portfolio. This is the patent for Serenity Complex, registered in my name and mine alone. James, Diana, you have been manufacturing and selling Aura Bloom products using my patented intellectual property for 2 years without a license. The color drained from their faces. James looked like he was going to be sick. My lawyers have already filed a lawsuit against Aura Bloom Incorporated, James Blackwood, and Diana Blackwood for willful patent infringement. We are seeking all profits earned from the sale of every infringing product, which amounts to approximately $450 million. The room exploded. Camera flashes went off like lightning. I saw investors standing up, furious. I saw board members putting their heads in their hands. But I had one last card to play, the most important one. I looked directly at Chloe. I spoke into the microphone, but my words were for her alone. And to my daughter, Chloe, I never left you. They took me from you. They filled your head with lies because the truth that they are thieves and traitors was too ugly for them to bear. Everything I have done for you, to show you that no one can keep you down, that your mother is not the woman they painted me to be. Verdant Heart, it's for you. It's your legacy, too. Tears were streaming down Chloe's face. She stood up, pushing her chair back, and without a single glance at James or Diana, she walked through the stunned crowd and up onto the dais. She stood by my side, taking my hand. The image was iconic. Mother and daughter, united against the corrupt duo exposed before a horrified audience. The fallout was swift and brutal. The lawsuit bankrupted Aura Bloom within a year. James and Diana were personally liable. They lost the penthouse, the cars, everything. They were investigated for securities fraud related to the boardroom coup. They became pariahs. Verdant Heart didn't just succeed, it became a global phenomenon, a symbol of resilience and authenticity. I ran it with Chloe by my side, teaching her everything my grandmother had taught me. They had tried to bury me. They didn't realize they were planting a seed. And from that seed, I grew a forest so vast and so powerful that it blotted out their sun forever. So, tell me, my warriors, was Serena's revenge justified? Would you have done the same? The comment section is yours. Tell me your thoughts and your stories below. Let me know what you would have done in her position. And if this story of rising from the ashes fired you up, then you need to be part of this community. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you never miss a story of truth and triumph. I read every single comment, so please, tell me where you're watching from. Your support is my strength. Until next time, remember, when they leave you with nothing, you have everything to gain. Goodbye.